Okay, Oscar nuts. The nominations are out. Our jaws are on the floor. Those usual snubs are waiting for us to dish right here. Let's go through some of the headlines first. Uh, Movies with the most nominations. The Revenant has 12, but is not nominated for screenplay. The Martian is up for 10, but is not
No, no,
nominated.
Mad Max.
Martian is
Mad
it,
Max is up.
Mad Max is up for 10.
but also it's also missing screenplay and acting.
Screenplay and acting. And The Martian is how many does that have, Daniel?
7, and of course it's not in for Best Director, which we were all expecting.
Right. This apparently is not going to be the year for Ridley Scott. And Bridge of Spies and Spotlight at 6. The last movie to win Best Picture with only 6 nominations was The Departed, or The Crash. The Departed did win with 5, but there's we'll talk about this stuff in a minute here. But the movies that are up for both picture, director, and writing are Spotlight, Big Short, Mad Max, and Room. Among those, the ones that are also up for editing, which is usually the one you need to win Best Picture too, Big Short, Mad Max, and Spotlight. Paul, let's go to you first. What reactions do you have?
Well, I think the story is The Revenant. I mean, we all rolled our eyes when the Golden Globes showered all those prizes on Sunday, and we were all these Oscar experts saying, well, that's the Globes. They don't really know what they're talking about. It's got 12 nominations, and, you know, we didn't expect it to get that nomination for screenplay, but we also didn't expect it to get a costume design nomination, a production design nomination. I mean, they love this movie across the board. Tom Hardy getting in. So the actor, Leo's got the Oscar, we knew that, but how many of us were saying Tom Hardy was even in the running for The Revenant? This thing made almost $40 million last weekend. It's going to explode with 12 nominations. It's going to be a huge hit. And don't forget now, everyone, Oscar voting doesn't happen for another month. We've got all of those Guild Awards to come between now and when the Oscar voting actually starts. But boy, I think The Revenant could really make a run against what we're probably going to say are front runners, Spotlight and Big Short. That's where I'm at.
2 movies, just to cite them as examples, historically did go on to win Best Picture without the screenplay nomination. They were Titanic and The Sound of Music. Chris, you pipe in here next. What thoughts do you have?
I like Paul's thoughts about The Revenant. It really does seem to be overperforming. In a way, to me, you know, the front runner that we've had for weeks and weeks, Spotlight, overperformed to me. The fact that most of the way the actors could not get in anywhere. Rachel McAdams got in at SAG, and Mark Ruffalo got in at Critics' Choice, but they haven't been getting in at a lot of places, and for both of them to get in here, and a guy that I've met on the circuit so many times, I'm so thrilled for him, Tom McCardle, the editor, didn't get in at the editing branch, or the editing guild, so he gets in here. I think it overperformed. I think it's still in the running. I think it definitely could win Best Picture.
Yeah.
I agree. I think this is really great news for Spotlight because while The Revenant overperformed, that's a technical movie where I mean, it's not too surprising that it did slightly better than expected in those technical fields. Spotlight did everything it needed to do, and just a little bit more than that. Like Chris said, it got the editing nomination, it got the writing and directing nominations we were expecting, it got the 2 acting nominations, which is more than it's gotten at most events. So the fact that it only got 6 nominations is only really reflective of the fact that it's a contemporary film. It's a small scale character driven story. Wasn't getting a lot of these technical branch nominations. I think it's as strong as it was for Best Picture, if not more. And you know, if it hadn't been for Revenant doing slightly better than or a lot better than expected, really. I would say Spotlight would be confidently the front runner.
And no, let's not. Big Short. Come on. I mean, Adam McKay.
Yes, it got skunked at the Golden Globes. Didn't have a single win. Of course, either did Spotlight. And yes, Big Short is in all those races. Even got an acting nomination there for Christian Bale. It also overperformed. Do you know what else did? Room did. We not nominated for the DGA, but
nothing. But I did a guild scorecard. Room only got cited by the Screen Actors Guild. So I did not put it into my top 10 for picture because I thought, where is it going to get the support that it needs? Where is it going to get those #1 votes? But I do want to just go back to a second to The Big Short and Adam McKay, who we all know for comedies like Anchorman. He's not a member of the Academy. That he impressed those 394 members of the director's branch. I mean, the DGA, 16,000 plus members, fine. He said he's one of them, started in TV. But the fact that he was able to, say, bump out Ridley Scott, to bump out Steven Spielberg, people, I mean, Ridley Scott, weren't we all predicting he was going to win the Oscar?
Yeah,
Yes,
I have been
yes.
for weeks.
Yeah. So I think this is The Big Short is a really strong contender as well. That we didn't expect it to do anything below the line, but that it got in, as you said, with Christian Bale and Adam McKay, screenplay, all of those things. So what does everyone sort of think underperformed? What was the most surprising to not see?
Oh, Carol.
Yeah.
No Best Picture, no directing. I don't think it did all that well at all, and that's kind of a pattern for Todd Haynes. Last time I guess that he had a really big contender was Far From Heaven, and that way underperformed.
Mm. And again, had done very well across the guilds, but he didn't get in with DGA. So it's interesting. People didn't have passion about it. We always talk about passion to get you that Best Picture nomination. I was predicting Straight Outta Compton. Was everyone else think if it went to 10?
Yeah.
I mean, it only went to 8. Didn't we all think it was going to get a nomination? The fact that it got in for screenplay, I mean, and that was it. It didn't get in sound. I thought it was going to get in one of the sound mixing.
Yeah. Also, big picture snubs: Star Wars, Carol, Sicario, Inside Out. The biggest snubs on the actor side: Johnny Depp, Will Smith, Michael Caine, Steve Carell. Actresses snubbed: Charlize Theron, Carey Mulligan. We knew that they were likely going to be snubbed. In that Best Supporting Actor race, no Jacob, the kid from Room, isn't there. Idris Elba, who we thought was a potential here to win.
Yeah, first, and in terms of the supporting actress, the fact that they listened to the studios and put Vikander and Mara in supporting and Vikander for Danish Girl, Not Ex Machina, but no Idris Elba, no nominees of color, no Straight Outta Compton. What is Chris Rock going to make of all this when he's on that stage? Daniel, I mean, you write extensively about this.
Really, really hope Chris Rock takes advantage of this opportunity to celebrate the fact that one of the only people, perhaps the only person of color who's going to be on that Oscar stage is him. Which is, I mean, all of Hollywood has this problem, but in a year when 3 black women won Emmys, the biggest winner in Broadway history is a black woman, Audra McDonald, and not even a single person of color nominated for acting at these awards for the second year in a row. No people of color nominated for acting. It's really, I don't know why film is so far behind everyone else, even though everyone else is really just starting to catch up when it comes to representation.
Now, to be, we had that prediction center with 40+ women in lead roles. Not a single woman of color was in our prediction center because there were no viable contenders. But do you think it helps the Straight Outta Compton screenplay team in a way?
Maybe if it had a Best Picture nomination or anything else. Yeah. That Best Screenplay nomination is every year. I think there was a thread in the forum somewhere asking, well, which is going to be this year's film that's nominated for screenplay and nothing else? Because every year, almost every year, there's one film that manages to get its screenplay and nothing else. And I thought it might be Ex Machina, but it turned out to be Straight Outta Compton because Ex Machina did get that visual effects bid.
Uh-huh.
2 people in supporting that are really disappointed today. They got in essentially everywhere you could get in all this season are Michael Shannon and Helen Mirren for Trumbo. That's becoming more of a I remember doing statistics for many years. It would be like maybe every 3, 4, 5 years you'd have somebody slip through the cracks like a Cameron Diaz or somebody like that. But now it's like every year somebody gets snubbed that's been nominated everywhere.
Well, I just suddenly dawned on me about Tom Hardy is, of course, they were watching him not only in The Revenant, but they were watching him in Mad Max, and then in Legend, where he played two people. So I think it was sort of, we really should have considered him more, even though he wasn't getting a lot of love from the precursors.
Well, I figured the precursors would also pick up on that fact. I mean, the precursors were loving Mad Max and everything like that, and I figure they would have been aware at that point. So the fact that he wasn't getting in any love along the way for one or any of those films sort of was the reason I sort of thought, okay, he's probably not getting in.
Well, now the voting is underway right now for Critics' Choice. It was yesterday and today. I'm sure a lot of people held off filling in their ballots. It's Sunday night. And they love to be thought of as an Oscar foreshadow, right? Suddenly, they like that. I wanted to say spotlight, but I decided, or crystal ball. That's what I was thinking of. Chris, what do you think? Do you think that suddenly are you going to change your predictions for Critics' Choice based on these Oscar nominations?
I will somewhat, but I think if they are trying to predict, they're going to be as confused as we are for a few days because do they go with The Revenant? Do they go with The Big Short? Do they go with Spotlight? Mad Max? I mean, what are they going to go with? Because I don't think there's a front runner right at the moment. Like typically at this point, we've at least got it narrowed down to maybe a couple of movies that really could win Best Picture. So even on the acting side, you mentioned Tom Hardy. After I saw the movie, I had him in first place for a while, and then he started getting left off every single award show ballot. He's not even nominated in his own country at BAFTA, right? So I think the only people that have him are Critics' Choice and now the Oscars.
Let me interrupt you guys. I've got to go over to the set of entertainment tonight. Do you guys see a stop broadcast button on the bottom of your screen?
No.
None of you?
Nope.
Okay, then we're going to have to wrap it up right here, and if you want to do another video in a bit, I'm the only one who has charge of this video.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we will pick up this discussion later today. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.